Hey guys, welcome to this video on Saturn in Pisces. If you have Saturn in Pisces in your natal chart in astrology, then this video is for you. Alright guys, welcome to this video. I'm Cassandra, the Saffron Sage, helping you use astrology to evolve. We're going to talk about what happens when the planet of Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. So Saturn restricts everything it touches, and when it lands in Pisces, it restricts the Pisces energy, which is being connected to the whole. Pisces is a water sign, so it represents emotions, and it is mutable water. It is really about oneness and connectedness to all things. But when Saturn lands here, this brings the challenge, and every Saturn placement has its challenge, of really being able to feel connected to the whole, feel connected to God or the universe, spirit, whatever you call that. And the person with Saturn and Pisces, really the only way through is the path of service and transcending the ego. Okay, so someone with Saturn and Pisces can have challenges in life where they feel like they don't get what they want. Or sometimes people with this placement can actually feel guilty whether they are or whether they're not, because there's this deep down kind of fear, this deep down feeling that they have to sacrifice, this almost built in. And this can come through events that happen in childhood where this gets sort of drilled into them. Sometimes they will end up making sacrifices to take care of people or for other things, and that energy that they kind of take on, that role they take on of the sacrificer, you know, they never let it go. It just kind of stays there. And unless the person consciously works to dismantle that, they can really go through their life with this sense of guilt, this sense of almost underlying fear of not quite doom, but that like some outside external force at any moment could come along and just wipe it all away. The person with Saturn and Pisces, this is kind of this innate feeling they'll have that maybe they don't always know how to put words to, but it can really sabotage some of their decision making. It can make it really hard for them to know if they're on the right path or not, because again, that feeling like if I'm not on the right path, I'm going to be punished can come up, or the feeling that you don't have the power to choose and live and direct your own life comes up. It comes up for a lot of Piscean or even Aquarian contacts in the natal chart in astrology. But when Saturn is in Pisces, remember, wherever we have Saturn, we have to use discipline to work to overcome. And this is an area of life that you see and you notice other people naturally getting much farther, much faster. And so when it comes to being connected to the divine, or feeling like you're connected to the good of all, or feeling like you're on the right path, the person with Saturn and Pisces, they'll have to really be disciplined. They might have to, almost have to have a spiritual practice in order to really understand, like, why am I here? Now, that's true for a lot of people, right? That they enjoy a spiritual practice, even if they don't have this placement. But for this placement, they'll need to use the discipline to create that isolation, that sense of connectedness to their own self. And because, you know, Pisces is also the 12th house, having Saturn here, it does make it it can make it hard for the person to see where they are self-sabotaging. There are other placements that can do this in the natal chart as well, but sometimes people with Saturn there, our 12th house represents what we don't see, and then Saturn kind of limits. So it's like we can't see what we can't see. Whereas other people, they still, you know, we all have an area of life that we can't see that's hard for us to see. But the Saturn and Pisces person, it's like perhaps adds more challenge to that sort of 12th house energy. So some themes that can come up for some Saturn and Pisces people are addiction, are mental illness in their life, perhaps not necessarily their own, but having, themes of addiction in their life, themes of mental illness, themes of escapism. And they may find that they are drawn to escape through substances or through, just tendencies to avoid. Avoidance comes up big with this placement. Someone with Saturn in the 12th could have a bad habit of playing video games, which they do to escape from reality. It doesn't mean you can't do that if you have this placement, but that you'll be more sensitive to overdoing it if you are engaging in those kind of things. So for the Saturn in Pisces person, they remember that wherever your Saturn is, you guys, you have the greatest potential for mastery. And so the Saturn in Pisces person can be very, very spiritual. They can, if they choose to, with discipline, overcome their Saturn by creating and fostering connectedness, emotional connectedness to all things, then they can really transcend this Saturn and have an experience of oneness, of that crown chakra energy, of really feeling like I am you and you are me, and embodying that in their life in a much more powerful way than someone who doesn't have Saturn here. People with this placement can become like meditation teachers, for example, because they have to have the discipline to allow that universal energy to flow through them. It doesn't come naturally, right? They will naturally block that energy, if anything. People with this placement can also tend toward isolation, just because they might be very sensitive to external stimulus. They might be sensitive to conflict. Not everyone with this placement will have it be expressed that way, but Pisces really is about connecting to the divine, and it's very otherworldly. So to have Saturn here, it's like you might only feel comfortable when you're alone, kind of a thing, only really feel like you can connect when you are by yourself with this placement. Or it can go the other way where you pick up so much from the environment that you choose to isolate yourself on certain occasions. Then there's, the kind of worst case scenario interpretations of this placement would be things like prison, jails, institutions. Why? Because when we don't look at those 12th house things, we don't look at our tendency to self-sabotage, our tendencies to escape and, not face things. Then, if you play that energy out for a lifetime, then, then you get caught for something and then you get in trouble and then you get isolated. So this is kind of the process by which these things happen. In traditional astrology, you'll hear those kind of significations of Saturn in the 12th. It's like going to prison or going to, a rehab or something. So basically, Saturn in the 12th, if you have this placement, you have to work hard to make sure you're facing anything that you might normally avoid. And again, you have this potential to transcend. And for many Saturn placements, guys, there's like a little bit more of a clear, direct answer or solution, way to remedy or way to overcome. But for Saturn and Pisces, the spiritual path is really the only way. This is the highest potential of this placement, is to connect with the divine, learn how the universe speaks to you, learn how to listen, learn how to connect with it. And for some people, they may end up teaching. For others, you don't have to. But just remember that because you have Saturn here, this is where you have to spend more of your energy to be okay. And it is emotional. And for some people too, this can actually make you feel isolated from other people, even when you're in a room full of people. And I know that, a lot of people would put that definition on Saturn and Aquarius, but Pisces is the collective whole too. Aquarius represents the collective, but Pisces represents, it's like we're all drops of water in the ocean, that Hindu saying. And with Pisces, with Saturn here, it restricts that feeling, that energy of being able to see how we're all drops of water in the ocean. What happens? The person feels isolated. They feel like they're not like the other drops of water even when they're swimming in the ocean, okay? So you can feel like there's something wrong with you with this placement. That feeling of guilt, you know, that feeling that God is going to come down and strike you for no reason. And so people with this placement can also learn the difference between appropriate or inappropriate guilt, and, you know, find tools to assess that, so they're not just carrying around this sort of weight with them through their whole life that I deserve to sacrifice. That is one of the challenges here, is that there's this deep down feeling, I deserve to sacrifice. I'm gonna have to sacrifice. And then when they're met with challenging situations, what does someone who already carries this burden do? Well, because they're seeing life through the filter that I'm gonna have to sacrifice, I'm not worthy, then they end up automatically deciding they don't deserve things, or they have to do things the hard way, or they have to sacrifice a lot more than is really truly necessary. So learning the value of like the right, and by right I mean like appropriate, balanced, healthy form of sacrifice versus maybe some not so healthy forms of sacrifice where you're giving up everything for someone and not getting anything back. The Saturn and Pisces person, these are all themes that they'll have to deal with. So just to recap, Saturn and Pisces restricts your feeling of connection to the universe, but if you overcome this through discipline, through a disciplined spiritual practice, you can have more of a strong flowing connection to the divine, to God, to whatever you call that, whatever name you choose, that is beyond what, you know, someone without this placement could ever feel. So there is transcendence. That is the highest expression of Saturn and Pisces once you've worked through some of that guilt, that natural sort of shame or guilt or feeling like you have to sacrifice that comes with this placement. So that is what I have for you guys. Let me know in a comment below if this video is helpful. I love hearing from you. You can also grab my free guide to career astrology in the link below in the description box. And you can book a private reading in the description as well. So check that out if you're interested, and I will see you all in the next video.